you think he might need to be dragged up out of the cave? So he's been immobilized since childhood, which means what? All right. So he may not have muscle development in his limbs. So he may need to be dragged up. Why else might he need to be dragged up out of the cave?
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. He's been in the cave so long. Why do I need to go outside of this cave? Everything I need is right here, right? So at first he'll be able to see darker shapes such as shadows. Why would he be able to see shadows? Why would that be the first thing he'd be able to see? Okay, because he's looking away from the light source. What else? What has he spent most of his time looking at in his life?
That's all he knows.
That's all he knows. That's shadows. So I don't know what, I don't know what that tree thing is you're talking about, but I know what this shadow is, right? A lot of times when we work with people and we ask why is their behavior not changing, it's mostly because they're doing what they know. I have an Uncle Tony, and Uncle Tony has spent more time in camp than he has outside in the real world. And when we talk about camp, we're talking about incarceration. So he's spent more time at camp than he has outside. And it's so funny because he spent so much time at camp, when he gets released to come out, what does he do? He reoffends so he can go back to what he knows, right? And so a lot of times we ask our employees to do a thing, or we ask them to take a step, and they find it difficult, or they'll go on their way for a little while, and at some point they deviate or go back to what they used to do, and we have a question why. And I want to say this is one of those answers. There are some other ones, but this is one of those answers. So he would first see these shadows. Then at some point he'd be able to see brighter and brighter objects. The last object he would be able to see is the sun, which in time he would learn to see as that. Why would he need to learn that the sun is the sun? If he spent all these years in the cave, when he steps out and he sees it, what do you think he calls it? Fire, right? He might call it fire in the sky. Now, what's the difference between calling something fire in the sky and knowing that it is the sun? What do you have to know to call that thing out there the sun and not just call it fire in the sky? You have to know the word. What else?
He's taught.
He's taught. So someone has shared some information with him. All right. What else do you have to know about where is the sun? Is it in the sky? It is? Where is it? It's in space. So what is space? Where in space is it? It's in our solar system. What's a solar system? It's planets rotating around the sun. So you mean there are other planets? Because you use the S word, so there are other planets, which means I must be on a planet. So all of a sudden, I went from calling that thing fire in the sky to understanding that there's a universe out there, that there are other planets, there are other places that people can be. There are things that are rotating and things outside of my knowledge. And all of a sudden, my little world becomes this great big world. So having understood all of that, is this freed prisoner the same person he was before he left the cave? No, he's changed. Right? He's changed. Once thus enlightened, so to speak, the freed prisoner would no doubt want to return to free his fellow bondsmen. That makes sense, right? I'm now free. I know people who are held captive. I want to help them, so let me go back into the cave. Right? How many people would go back? Raise your hand if you'd go back. All right? Yeah, you may have friends and loved ones back in the cave, and you said, I want to go back. So here's the problem. The problem, however, is that they would not want to be freed. The people in the cave would not want to be freed. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. I have a salve that can heal this thing. I have a vaccine that can rid you of your problem. I can tell you the answer to all of the things that ail you and set you free. But they don't want to be free. Why? Because they don't know if it's the truth or not. What else? Fear. It's not comfortable, right? And to be quite honest, if I'm a chain polisher in the cave, do I want people free? No, I don't want people free because I'm going to lose my livelihood. If I'm a storyteller in the cave, and that's how I stack my pebbles, right? Do I want people free? So not only are there people who are being confined by this cave atmosphere, but there are people who are also running this cave atmosphere that also don't want individuals to be free or released. All right? But this person is determined to go back in and make this thing happen. The problem, however, is that they would not want to be freed. Descending back into the cave would require the freed prisoner's eyes to adjust again. And for a time, he would find, he would be inferior at the ludicrous process of identifying shapes on the wall. Why would he not be good at that any longer? And why would he find it ludicrous? Because he's seen the real deal. He's had an awakening, right? Are you guys familiar with Ludacris, the rapper guy? Yeah. Stand up. He does that thing, right? So they would find this, he would find this whole thing laughable and ridiculous because he has seen how things are different. He's seen the real world. This, however, would make his fellow prisoners murderous towards anyone who would attempt to free them. So they would rather kill this individual than to actually be free. Have we seen this in our society? Can you think of some historical ways that you've seen this play out? That rather than being free, people would rather kill the messenger than actually listen to the message? When I think about this, I think about Gandhi. And I think about how he single-handedly, well, relatively speaking, defeated the British and had them leave India. Gandhi went to the British Parliament and he talked with the overseer of India at that time and he said, "You will leave India. And when you leave, we will be friends." The British were like, "What are you talking about? The sun never sets in the British Empire. We've got all the manpower and we've got all the stuff. We can't. What are you talking about, Gandhi?" And Gandhi said, "We will be friends." And he left, right? And so what do you think happened? What does history say about what happened to the British Empire and their relationship to India? What happened? They left. And they kept diplomatic ties, just as Gandhi said. How? Why? One of the things that Gandhi knew that the British Empire did not necessarily know or remember or understand was that you can't make anybody do what? Anything. And so when you have millions of people refusing to do what you're asking them to do, you either have to turn up the heat or you have to get out of the kitchen.